Welcome to Developing Critical Thinking Skills Through Distance Education. The topic of critical thinking skills is one that has been and is continuing to be studied to ensure students of distance education are learning how to develop these skills and also participating in activities that ensure higher order thinking. Critical thinking has been described as thinking in pursuit of relevant and reliable knowledge, as well as reasonable, reflective, responsible, and skillful thinking. Critical thinking requires deep thinking and reflection, whether it be in a discussion or a well thought out project. If it is the goal of teachers to educate our students to ask appropriate questions, gather relevant information, sort through information, and have logical reasoning, then our students will be gaining critical thinking skills. In order to teach these skills, teachers must model these skills. Therefore, the facilitator of an online course has a great responsibility in modeling and encouraging these behaviors. These skills are not only needed in the classroom, but will serve a remarkable purpose in the workforce. William T. Daly believed that critical thinking skills are lacking and not being used in the workforce. He stated, "The critical thinking movement in the United States has been bolstered and sustained by the business community's need to compete in a global economy. The general skill levels needed in the workforce are going up, while the skill levels of potential employees are going down. As a result, this particular educational reform movement will remain crucial to the education of the workforce and the economy's performance in the global arena. This economic pressure to teach critical thinking skills will fall on educational institutions because these skills, for the most part, are rarely taught or reinforced outside formal educational institutions. Unfortunately, at the moment, they are also rarely taught inside educational institutions." Although critical thinking skills can be taught through all forms of learning, Clement and Lockhead believe we should be teaching students how to think. Instead, we are teaching them what to think. This point is agreed upon by many educationalists. Distance education opens many doors for critical thinking to occur. The three elements, social presence, cognitive presence, and teaching presence, are important in creating an educational experience in which critical thinking occurs. Critical thinking skills can be reached by teaching and providing activities that include higher order thinking skills. The bottom of Bloom's taxonomy requires the least amount of critical thinking. In the knowledge category, students may only be required to recall, define, or identify information. Moving up the pyramid to the understanding category, students may be asked to explain in their own words the steps in a process, to rewrite principles in a text, or infer the difference between two topics. Although this requires more thinking skills, the application category compels more. Students may be asked to modify, relate, or solve problems. The final three categories are the three that include the most critical thinking skills. This is where we want our learners' tasks to fall. Activities in the analyze category may be to analyze, compare, contrast, distinguish, and relate. The evaluate category activities may be to categorize, write, explain, and organize. The category that requires the most critical thinking skills is create. In this stage, students will be defending, supporting, evaluating, appraising, and criticizing, as well as other high-order thinking skill tasks. The following is a list of teaching strategies that support critical thinking. Instructors need to ask questions of students and encourage students to ask questions of others. Instructors also need to expect students to formulate answers to questions in their own words. Motivating students to use effort through grading criteria for participation in discussions is also required. Teachers should stimulate students to give examples of concepts being studied. Also, phrasing questions to students that require additional independent research or reading is needed. Teachers also need to reinforce students' use of critical thinking through positive reinforcement. One of the most beneficial activities of distance learning in regards to critical thinking is being involved in learning communities. Although students may be thousands of miles away from one another in terms of distance, they can virtually be in the same room, on the computer of course. Learners can gain new perspectives on educational topics as well as learn through the discussions and debates that may have otherwise been overlooked. This can occur through wikis, blogs, video conferences, threaded discussions, instant messaging. The possibilities are becoming endless. The technologies allow learners to question one another, inquire reasons for belief, build upon each other's ideas, debate, gain new perspectives, utilize specific criteria when making judgments, and collaborate in problem solving. As previously mentioned, threaded discussions, blogs, wikis, and podcasts can be used for online activities to support critical thinking. Blogs encourage critical thinking through self-reflection and the sharing of the learning process. Wikis break down the barrier between content creator and content consumer by promoting genuine interactivity and collaboration. Podcasts facilitate on-demand education and is tailored to various learning styles, pace, and interests. The author of Why Critical Thinking describes the benefits of critical thinking in distance education as being less manipulated, being required to think more independently, understanding the viewpoints of others, and require higher standards for ourselves as well as others. He quoted, "Though the challenge of improving your thinking is great, no other kind of self-improvement can affect every area of your life so positively." Critical thinking is needed in distance education to help our students be successful in their future adult life. How are you encouraging it in your classroom?